Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Mike Guerin. I'm with Team Kane, and I will be the main host and MC for our session this afternoon on X Marks the Spot, Finding Treasures in EnterpriseOne. I am joined today, as is often the case, sometimes we switch roles, but by Doug McCarthy. Doug is also an owner of Team Kane and is our VP of Sales and Operations. So a little bit of introductions for myself. I'm Mike Guerin. I've been in JD Edwards for 35 years, since 1982. Spent about 10 years at JD Edwards Direct. Started as a consultant, ended as the Director of Services for Canada. Presently, I'm the President and owner of Team Kane. And I am also a huge supporter of Quest and an official Quest ambassador. So, and a member of the Vendor Advisory Committee. So, Doug McCarthy, aka Iron Man. So it's a bit about the AKAs. I roast and grind my own coffee, so I'm known as the coffee dog internally and with my family and all that. And Doug has a much better handle, which is Iron Man, which is related to his background as a CrossFit trainer and also kayaking into the ocean and all that. And Doug, if you want to pop on and just do the last little bit of introduction for yourself.
Sure. And I must say that I did not pick Iron Man on my own. That was definitely assigned. But I spent most of my career on the corporate IT side. As it says there, I was with Damon Worldwide in Stamford, Connecticut as the Director of Enterprise Applications. Prior to that, with World Wrestling Entertainment in much similar role, and now I'm the VP of Sales and Operations working with Mike at Team Kane.
Yeah, and he does know some wrestling holds, so be careful around him. So a little bit on the agenda today. We're going to be touching on, and a little bit at the bottom. This is an overview. This isn't training, but touching on the core components of UX1 and UDOs, which are often interchangeable. And we will be using the colloquialism for UDO, which is UDO, which is kind of a neat three-beer marketing term for it. So that's going to include Cafe One, EnterpriseOne pages and composite pages, queries, watch lists, forms personalization, which is quite new. We're going to dive a little bit as well into UDO security and touch a little bit on enterprise search as well, which is a really nice new feature. Part of this is all about getting to the latest release, which is the 921 that we're talking about here. So we will touch a little bit on the best route and upgrade options and considerations for getting there. And then just a little bit about Team Kane, who we are, what we do, and so forth. So the whole idea behind UX1 is allowing an organization and its users to work the way that they like. Not sure if many of you have seen much in terms of what Oracle has come out with. I know from my side, I've mentioned that I've been in the JD Edwards marketplace for over 35 years now. And categorically, what's come out probably in the last year and a half is the most I've ever seen coming out for letting an organization and its users become better, more efficient, more effective, and really pushing the power down to the people that do the work. So UX1 is short for the user experience for EnterpriseOne. The whole idea behind it is to make people more productive. So manage the exceptions rather than having to sift through stuff, make it more efficient and more appealing for users. We hear that all the time. We've often talked to organizations that are considering repealing, in essence, EnterpriseOne. And one of the first questions to them is, have you seen some of the new stuff? Because the challenges and concerns from a user's perspective can often be addressed in almost entirety by what's out there. The capabilities leverage what Oracle is pushing these days, which is the Alert, Analyze, and Act. So that's alerting about a situation, that's watch lists. That's the analytics with the composite pages, and the actions, which is, I'm forgetting the term for it, but we'll see it in a minute. So anyway, so a couple of things on this. A lot of this is out of the box. You've probably all seen some of the information from Oracle about the fact that there are 55 to 60 roles that are delivered. There are over 1,300 UDOs that are available right now out of the box for the roles and for the capabilities that we'll be taking a look at. That includes the Alert, Analyze, and Act. It also includes a lot of what's being considered as citizen developers, so extending and creating your own information, your own layouts, your own grids with low code or no code. The last part, the cross-application search, is the enterprise search capability. So the whole idea behind this is the Analyze Alert Act should enable better decision-making. This should absolutely accelerate adoption. If you're aware of and can work with your user base on what you're able to do here, it should significantly increase their interest and their ability to work with it. Absolutely lessening IT backlog as well. Reducing the number of process steps. There's just so many ways with the new user interface. Simplifying upgrades. Because you are doing an awful lot that is not on a code basis, there's an awful lot less that you need to muck about with. And shortening user training, really this is all about putting the processes, the applications, and the capabilities in the hands of users for what they need and making it simpler for them. Mentioned before about this being a role-based solution. So when you get, and you can get them for each individual role, download them and then upload them into EnterpriseOne. So smattering of the ones that are out there. We've got customers that are using the Transportation Manager one extremely well. Common ones would be on the finance side as well for AP Manager, AR Manager. If you're heavy duty into maintenance, there's the Maintenance Manager, the Maintenance Supervisor, Operations Manager. There's ones for payroll, procurement, kind of across the board. There's 55 to 60 roles that are being delivered right now. And as you've probably seen, as each new release comes out, each new tools release or dot release, more and more is being added. The basis behind this, the technical components, there's OneView reports. If you're not familiar with OneView reporting or OVR, it really is the backbone of the reporting capability at a user perspective within it. There's also the Page Composer, and the Page Composer, if you're familiar with E1 Pages, this is kind of taking it to the next level, and this is really where you put the Analyze, Alert, Act components in there. The Composite Application Framework, or CAFE1, you're probably familiar with. If not, you probably should be. The watch lists are really driving this. There's also the list view grid format, which I think a lot of people are not quite familiar with. We'll touch on those as well. And then the Springboard, and the Springboard is on the right-hand side of the Analyze Alert Act pages, and that allows you to quickly get into tasks. The interesting thing, it's a little bit hard to see, but there are 4 colored icons up at the top of the screen, so even when you go from the Springboard into an application, the other Springboard items are there and available to the user, so they don't have to back out. So, personal forms. I'm starting off with this one because it's my own absolute favorite. One of the things we've heard from users time after time again, and anybody that's worked with users, if you're a business analyst or a technical analyst, they're always screaming about the fact that they need to go to 3 tabs and there's a bunch of stuff that they don't need on the screens. And you're saying, well, I could do that, but it'd be a technical change. Not anymore. Personalized forms allows you to hide or show, to move, to rename, to resize, and to reposition controls. And controls includes things like tabs on screens. So you can move information, fields between the tabs as well, and hide them. You can also relabel fields, including the title of the form itself. In addition to this, once they are created, they can be saved, and then you can also request to publish them. We'll be touching on this. It's part of the UDO security, but you can have these done up and shared out in very short order. So what's this about? Well, if you take a normal screen, when you go into the personalized side, and that is up at the top right, where you normally go into personalize a form, i.e. to do CAFE1 type stuff, the same spot is where you can select the option to be able to actually go into the forms personalization itself. When you go into that, you see on the left-hand side, there's a whole bunch of fields, and the fields with the little red minus signs are ones that you could move away. It keeps track of what you've moved away on the right-hand side, and you can use the green button there to move them back. Now, this is a simple form with only 1 tab on it. If there were multiple tabs on it, you could also move the fields out of the main tab into the workspace at the bottom, go back to another tab, and move it back on there. What this allows you to do is to be able to take a form and to set it up to reflect either for a given purpose or for a given user what they need to do and simplify it in a great deal for them. So, and the relabeling is a nice touch as well. This, you need to be aware, I think we touch on it a bit later on, but this is a feature that you can turn on or off for the organization. I will say that if you're going to be getting into this, and you really should, you need to be aware that there is not the ability with the personalization to restrict fields. So when I look at this, I'd say, this is wonderful. There's 5 fields on there that I really don't want an end user to be able to suck off because they're important. I need them. I need them visible. So you cannot control that other than from a development perspective, what's defined as a mandatory field. A mandatory field you cannot move off, but anything else is fair game. So part of the message for that is, as you get into this, the smart approach is to let power users or business systems analysts, business analysts who know the system, work with the users for what they're needing, and have them create these. Springboards. Springboards are, when we're looking at a composite page, the items on the right. So normally, if you have this set up for a role and there's watch lists on the left for an inventory manager, and there's items that might be needed to be reordered, or shipments that need, or items that need to be cross-shipped, things that they need to be aware of. The middle page shows the analytical information that they'd want to work with, and the right side shows the springboard. So that's the common tasks. It allows people, as they're looking at the watch list and looking and diving down through the analytics, to quickly be able to go to a task that would be related to the role that they're playing. It can be an E1 application, could be batch programs, could be OneView reports. It could also be something that you've created with ADF, or the Application Development Framework applications. And again, when you actually get into them, when you click on one of the items on the springboard, the other springboard items are available to you, which is a really nice touch. So as mentioned, on the right-hand side, those are things like the springboards. The analytical is the part in the middle. So with that, it's built with Oracle's JET, or the JavaScript Extension Toolkit. So the queries that are in there and the way that they are displayed are initially set up, but the user can also go through, and if the query is showing, for example, items that are on back order, and there's another query that's available that allows them to see items that are due for a replacement, they can change the query directly within there, and the data will automatically change to reflect that. So you can change this on the fly. You can also actually get into the query builder and create a new one and make use of it there. So very powerful, tying back to the query side. And again, if you're not familiar with the advanced query capabilities in EnterpriseOne, which has been there for a while, is the heart of all of this. This screen just shows some examples of what can be part of that analytical experience on the side. So what we showed was some of the graphical parts that were there. You also have examples for things like up on the top right, that's more of a staff utilization. So it's a calendar-based representation of the data. Bottom left is one that is more, you've probably seen some of these from other demos in the past, but from a geographical based or map based. And the right-hand side is something like an org chart. So there's a lot of capabilities that are in there to let you present the data in a manner that will make a lot more sense to the end users. So,
Hey, Mike, interrupt you just for a quick second. Did have one question that came in about masking data. Question being, can you mask data like keying in a branch plan or linking to omit zero quantities, or?
Well, the omitting zero quantities you could do as just part of the query itself.
Mm-hmm.
So, and for masking fields, I guess it depends on what you mean by masking. You can change the labels. You can change some of the characteristics of it. Sorry, I'm just
or you could just you could remove a field altogether. So you know, when you say that you want to mask data, And maybe by omit zero quantities, if you want to take away the ability to check that box, you could just take that field right off of the form. And again, I don't think Mike and I are clear on what the question might be. So if you want to go through and put in a little more information on that, we can definitely try and get that answered. So if you want your grid or the always to show branch plant 20, then that's where Mike was just talking about the queries. You could put that in so that every time you open up that particular form, branch plant 20 is already pre-populated and shows you that information. And for any questions, there's quite a bit coming in, but if we can't get to any of the questions during the actual webinar, we will definitely get back to you after the webinar in the next couple of days with questions or to continue the conversation. So,
E1 pages, watch list, Cafe One. Composed pages, they're E1 pages with some very specifically designed layouts there. So, and again, if people are by and large at this point used to E1 pages, but it's more for tasks. So you're assigning, in essence, like a workflow with buttons on it for people to get into enter vouchers or review vouchers or approve vouchers. This is taking it to the next level, and this is with the new E1 page composer. So one of the real benefits, as you've seen on some of the screenshots, is getting multiple content types on a single page. And that can be external web pages, normal E1 application forms, OVRs, classic pages that you might have done, designer panes, watch list panes, springboard panes, OBIE objects, ADF applications. So pretty much the sky's the limit for it. With the watch list, we kind of glossed over that a bit because it's fairly familiar to us, but I know in the registration information, a number of people were asking about that. The principle behind watch lists is, from a business perspective, you want to let people know what they should be concerned about rather than having them have to go in and sift through screens and find out what orders are on back order or what items need to be reviewed or which work orders need to have staff assigned to it. So the basis behind it is a query, so a custom query that you have created, and then on top of that is a OneView report, and that is linked up with the watch list. The watch lists allow you to set thresholds for the different colors, so yellow and red being the main ones. So red is critical, yellow is you should probably be paying attention to it, and then the watch list can be accessed from pretty much any screen, put on normal E1 pages and put on composite pages as well. The real power behind this is you are directing people to what they need to pay attention to. So you're telling them what they need to be looking at. Cafe One, I think a lot of people are probably familiar with it by now, but the idea behind this is allowing you to link pages or link applications on a single screen. So if you are in supplier master and you want to be able to have a screen that shows the open suppliers on the right-hand side, or the reverse side if you're in the supplier ledger inquiry and you want to be able to see characteristic information for that supplier, you can attach and have them dynamically linked so that the information in the right-hand side automatically changes. So as you click through the supplier on the main supplier inquiry screen, the data in the composite page, the Cafe One page that you've attached to it, changes to reflect it as well. You think in terms of inventory, if you're on the item master, you could have one that shows the item branch information on the right-hand side and the quantities. If you're in payroll and you're looking at employee list, you could have a composite page or a Cafe One page on the right-hand side that shows birth date, position, and other information. You can also have multiple Cafe One windows attached. And one of the other nice things with them is it's about real estate. So I've got a 32-inch monitor, which is really nice. I can probably have a lot of them. If you don't have as many or don't have as big a setup or a real estate, you can slide these in and out, and that's controllable as well. So you can pop it out to see the information and then slide it back and get back to the full screen view. So the Cafe One allows you to use other forms. You can also do web page content. So if you are on an item master and you can provide a way to link from the supplier number and the supplier item number to their side to a catalog page. You can do that as well. You can also link in any applications that you created with ADF and analytical components as well. So really, really nice and powerful. And for what it's worth, this has been here for a long time, and it's probably one of the most underutilized capabilities that are out there. Even if you just think in terms of how many times your users bounce between applications, if it's a pretty commonality as to what they're doing to bounce between, it's a great way to avoid that. One view reporting, I got to figure pretty much everybody's familiar with or has at least heard of OVR at this point in time. It is the reporting engine for EnterpriseOne at this point in time. It's accessible from pretty much all screens. Organizations that have started to adopt this have found that their end users are creating the reports that they need much more easily than having to go to IT for it. So it is intended to be a user tool, but like anything else on a technology basis, it does require some level of knowledge, and it might be nice to think that you can just turn it loose and they can figure it out themselves. Probably not the best approach. There are many templates and report packs that are available. So particularly with the UX1 roles, there's a lot that can be there that they can start to make use of, but you can also start smaller if you want to. At a minimum, and there's a bit of a differentiation here, to use one OVR, you need to have an OVR Foundation license. Now, the caveat for that is that the UX1 content, which does include OVR content, does not require you to have a license if you are only using the content that is provided. As soon as you want to change it or add some more, or if you're, then you need to get into the licensing. And OVR is licensed by module in addition to a foundation license. For what it's worth, from my side, this is also the foundation for watch lists, and we've heard customers that have preferred not to use watch lists because they need to license OVR. OVR at the end of the day is really not that expensive. Even if you're getting foundation and a module for somebody in finance, for example, list price is about $2,300, and that's list price. So you know that there's usually some discussion available there depending upon quarter end and all. If the average burden rate for a person in your organization is $60,000, really what you're saying is, I do not expect to get at least a 2% increase in their productivity. And my gut would say you're going to go well beyond that. So one of the other items for OVR, we certainly have customers that have done this, is using the OVR and some of the capabilities that you're seeing here with the analytics and the E1 pages and OVR screens to look at data as the entry point for users that are more casual. So, and not having to burn a user license for the applications. It is foundation for OBIEE and most of the other reports that are created within EnterpriseOne. And as mentioned before, the content, particularly with the UX1 roles that you can download, is free. But again, if you want to make some changes, it's going to require licensing. Doug, just wanted to check before you. Yeah, I was just going to see, any other questions come in?
Yeah, a couple. One about Cafe One, asking if it's a part of the foundation or an add-on.
It's part of the foundation, so no licensing required. Free is always the best price.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was another question about there's some known bugs with personalized forms, and if we knew anything about that, one just question back to that person is what tools release you're on, and you can put that in as another question if you'd like. I know there has been updates that have come out with the 9.2.1. Is it 4 or 5, the latest? So I'd be curious to see where you're at and know a little bit more about the bugs. But we will get back to you on what the latest is there.
Yeah, and so I don't know if I'd necessarily comment on the bugs and all that. The forms personalization is new as of 9213, I believe, and then was extended in 9214. So the fact that there might be a few things coming out of the woodwork would not be terribly surprising at this point. So,
great.
All right, alrighty. Good to go?
Yep, good to go.
Cool, thanks, Doug. So, security for UDOs. There's three main security areas. I know that's going to seem weird, like it was just like US-Canadian conversion because there's 4 bullet points listed there, but bear with me for a second. So first off is feature security, and this really turns on or off which features your organization uses. So it's really an on-off switch for it. We'll touch on the screen in a minute. There's also action security, and the action security allows you to determine who can create for their own use, whether they are allowed to request to publish, and who can modify ones that are shared. Third main one is the view security, so who can work with it and who can view the shared UDOs. There's also another security option, but this is strictly for the composite application framework UDOs, so things like the analytics and all. A couple of key concepts. By default, the UDOs are secured out of the box. So if you want to be able to use them, you have to enable the feature, and then you have to go in and assign the rights for action, view, and content for your users. And as with many other areas in the security arena for JD Edwards, Star Public can apply to many of them. So if you just want, if there's some that are applicable to everybody rather than kind of playing around with individuals or roles, you can do a Star Public. Or the reverse, you can do a Star Public to enable, and you can restrict individually. The process involved with these, particularly the ones that users have created, is they request to publish, and again, you can limit who can do that. Once they have been requested to be published, they show up as requested to be published. They can be reviewed and approved, or you can ask for more information. So it's kind of a normal workflow process. There's also attachments and that's there. The other interesting thing that people don't necessarily realize a lot of the time, and this is with the web OMW, but you can move UDOs between environments and you can export and import them. And actually, if you're downloading a role, UX1 project in essence from the Oracle site, you actually would then import it through the UDO main security screen. So most of the security is handled in the work with user-defined objects, and also from form exits and from row exits in there. So this is what the UDO main security screen looks like with at least one of the windows open from the row side. So behind the screens, you've got the user-defined object status and type, so you can winnow this down to watch lists, queries, composite pages, etc., and also look for ones that are just at a particular status. So they're shared, or they're waiting for approval, or they've been rejected. You can, from the row basis, then preview what it looks like, approve it, share it, reject it. You can also directly from here request to publish it or cancel the request. See if there's any dependencies, look at the logging or the tracking behind it, look at the security for it, and also do translations. The feature enablement, which is a form exit from the user/role security, is really simple. So here's the ones that are there. We've touched on them. So Cafe 1, E1 pages, grid formats, one-view reports, queries, and watch lists. This is the on-off switch for your organization. So we've seen sometimes where people will want to get into it and just don't see it available. This is the first step you need to do. Beyond that, within the actual action security for it, so you got a couple of choices here. You're specifying an object type, and you can specify an application, role, product code, reporting code as well. Down at the bottom is where you would then go in and for a user or a role, or possibly Star Public, for specific objects and or forms and or versions, specify whether that user role has the ability to create and publish, create, publish, and modify, or none. You can also do it just by clicking on the boxes. So you've got the column for create, publish, and modify. If you click on them, it'll change from red to green and vice versa. So normal security considerations apply here. You need to think out what your strategy is, what it means for roles, whether there's overrides from users, whether there's applicability for star public. But this is where you go in and allow the action security on it. When that has been set up, what you see at the top right might be a bit hard to see, but with an example of a query, the query manager. So there are icons for save or save as, request to publish, reserve, and delete. The options are based upon the security, and if you have not enabled that for somebody, it will not show up. The same will apply for the other items like forms personalization, like watch lists, etc. Kind of tying it a bit together, what we've got here is an example of what an E1 page might have looked like before. So it's more kind of words in nature and with URL links versus taking it to the next level and having not only the actions but also some analyticals which might be called through directly and the act capabilities on the right-hand side. So it would have been interesting, although given the level and detail of content that we're coming through here, Doug, I know we talked about doing surveys or having some polls pop up and ask you about what you're doing. Generally what we've seen is E1 pages are getting adopted, but not nearly as quickly as we would have thought. And queries are being used, but not nearly as much as we would have thought. Watch lists are starting to get used a bit more, but not a huge amount. Some of the newer capabilities, like the forms personalization and enterprise search, we think will be big once people get to the appropriate release level. But we've been surprised before. Anyway, we'll touch on a couple of thoughts on that as we go forward as well. So, enterprise search. This is one of my new personal favorites. If you're not familiar with it, EnterpriseOne's enterprise search is basically an E1 page that gives you access to kind of whatever your heart desires. The idea behind here, down at the bottom left, we see address records and tasks. So out of the box, enterprise search gives you access to the content and the data, not only within your data files, but also within menus. So, and the menus was an addition in 9214, I believe, or what's called tasks here. So the search started out by typing in capital, and it's almost like a Google screen. There's one big box in the middle where you say, what do you want to search for? So you type in capital, and as you're typing, this is what would be showing up. So you've got a whole bunch of address book records on the left, because address book is one of the ones that are selected. If capital also tied to items and items was enabled, items would be showing up as well under item master records. And on the right-hand side is your tasks. So look at it this way. It's kind of a one-stop shop for being able to let users find stuff without having to go through a lot of different screens. The other nice capability here is on the address book record side, there's a little eye, like an information circle, and there's 3 dots beside it. The information circle, if you hover over it, will pop up information. So if we were looking at this, it could show the open sales orders, the open purchase orders, the payments related to that vendor. You decide. The 3 little dots are for related actions, and the related actions are in essence shortcuts to programs or applications that users might be able to, or you might want users to use. The real power here is particularly with, I'm pretty sure it's 9214, this is all managed through managing user-defined objects. So the ability to go in and change this and say it's not just items and address books and tasks which comes delivered, but I also want to include assets, and I might want to include purchase orders, and I might want to include work orders, and you can assign those. You can also secure them by users, and this does respect the normal security in EnterpriseOne. And again, rather than going through the menus to find speed voucher entry, which would probably, if you don't have it in your favorites, would probably make you cycle down through about 5 levels of menus. If you went into the search page and just typed in speed, odds are it's right at the top of the list, and you can click directly on it. So this is a really nice feature. And as mentioned on there, the 921.4 includes the editor for the fields, the tabs, the columns, the related items. There's also, and I think this is in 9213, although I might be mistaken because I've certainly misspelt it. So the Walker bench, what you probably would refer to as a workbench if you speak English, that allows you to look at the performance and the usage of them and make some determination, see which ones are being used the most, see if there's calls for other ones if you introduce a new one. So, general considerations. Try this stuff. The biggest comment we have to people is give it a whirl. Everybody has a test environment or a sandbox environment. Put it in there, play around. You do want to be a little bit selective. It's like anything else. There's an awful lot that you could expose, create, enable for users for this. Pick areas where there's higher value or higher benefit, more users, a busier environment, things where there could be a better return. If your inventory is getting out of control, if your payroll people are swamped, find ways to help them out. It's also best to start with the areas where you have good power users who will appreciate and work with you on it. So you don't want to turn this loose on and for everybody. As touched on before, with the forms personalization, you don't have the ability to restrict moving fields off, other than you can't do it for mandatory fields. So although this is defined as a user tool, in reality it probably shouldn't be. You want to work with your power users or have your power users or BAs work with the end users to create it, make sure you're following the right regimes, and turn it loose on people. Our own personal favorites, watch lists. Yeah, you need one view reporting, but the payback can really be substantial. You're directing people to what they need to care about rather than make them wade through, I was going to use another colloquialism, but stuff in general. Cafe One, there's so much potential and there's so little that's understood there. And this is something that we think could be loosened on users in a controlled manner to start with and then out to more. So they're the ones that know when they're bouncing around. You can also, because if you're at the tools release that lets you do the personalized forms, you can tie personalized forms to it. So you're making it more effective, less things for people to go through, and more related things that they can get to as well. So the forms personalization, this I think should be huge. Consolidating and simplifying screens for users. If such a thing still exists, we figure you'll definitely be on their Christmas card list forever. The other one, we haven't touched a lot on this, but Orchestrator. Prior to 9214, it was called IoT or Internet of Things Orchestrator. They've now rebranded it just as Orchestrator. Actually, I've got this on my next screen, so I'll just get to it there. So under the 9214. So EnterpriseOne Search now includes menu tasks. Orchestrator is now just called Orchestrator, or IoT Orchestrator is now just called Orchestrator, and it's part of tools and infrastructure. It was a separately licensed item before. From what we've seen of it and the capabilities, this could be a great tool for integration. We've done and we've worked with clients and have seen clients do a lot of business service type integration, which calls on business functions and all that. Everything we've seen of Orchestrator should allow it to be a better, more robust, better at error handling capability for doing things like that. Another small thing that was in there, media objects can now be in the database or in the file system. So that's a change. Things that have been around for a while that aren't used as much and touched on this a bit before, but E1 pages in general, advanced queries or the user queries, and BI Publisher. We were a Createform master partner for probably 10 years, doing a lot of BI Publisher now, including our BI Publisher packs. With some restrictions, BI Publisher is definitely ready to replace the majority of the third-party tools that you might have. So that's definitely worth looking at. So we also, it was last month, Doug, we did a webinar. We have got a recording on our site for migrating from third-party tools. So if that's something of interest to you, go to our site and check it out. We're going to zip to the getting to 9.2x and some ideas that we have on it, but I thought it might be a good time to stop and see if there's any other questions in, Doug?
No other questions at the moment, Mike.
Ooh, cool. So you've just been sending a good karma, and everybody understands, right? Bless you, sir.
It's the least I can do.
You're a good man. So, designing the best route to get to 9.2. We talk to a lot of customers on upgrades and migration planning and upgrade planning and all that. The starting point, we think, for all of it is a proper ERP roadmap. So, where do you need to go? And that really, there's two sides to it. Where's the business going? And from a strategic side, what technologies and tools and capabilities will help them out? On the flip side, the role of people on the technology side should be to enlighten the business as to the capabilities that are there and how it could be helping them out. They probably don't know what a UDO is, or they might guess what it would probably be rude. Your role, if you're in the technology side, is to expose them to that. So what extensions or improvements have you made to the core system? What can you do on that side to help the business? Are there new modules or capabilities that can replace stuff that's not currently handled in the core ERP? I bet you if you went around to your users and started to roster what you could do with forms personalization, and if you looked hard and fast at watch lists and controlling, there'd be a boatload of stuff. So where's technology heading and how can it benefit the organization overall? That's really where we're talking about if you are on the side of a BA or on the business technology side, making sure that you are aware of what's there and can relate it to the business people in terms of what it can bring to them. When we're looking at upgrades, we tend to think of them in three main groups. One is a like-for-like, or what's technically called just a technical upgrade. So you're literally just, you're not doing anything else other than going from 9.2.0 to 9.2.1.4, or from apps 9.1 to apps 9.2. There's also like-for-like plus low-hanging fruit. So that's, well, we're largely going to do that, but we want to introduce a few changes to make it worthwhile or to embed into the upgrade some things that will provide value. The other end of the spectrum is a business process reengineering. Not often seen, but if it's been a long time, and I mean, quite a while since you've done anything other than a like-for-like upgrade, it's probably worth considering. The biggest time on that is spent up front with the as-is and the to-be and what can be, what the future might look like. A general comment there is if you've done like-for-like plus like-for-like plus like-for-like and you do your upgrades every 2 to 3 years, or it's been at least 7 years since you did a kind of a real upgrade, in technical terms, you're close to being in the situation where you're running a legacy system, and nobody likes to hear that. So one of the things we often propose to customers when we're working with them is there's an interim step. Rather than committing to the full upgrade and saying we need to decide today whether it's a like-for-like or plus low-hanging fruit or BPR or maybe an in-between of the last two, do some analysis first. Take the time to study where the gaps and holes in functionality, user experience, reporting, and capabilities are, and figure out what you can appropriately bite off given the time, resources, and investment that you might have available. This will also, if we're talking to a CFO, he's often, mutter, I'm writing a check for whatever to do an upgrade, and I really getting out of it. Well, shame on us if we're not telling him that. And a process like this will help you clarify it and to be able to document even better what's the business case and the benefits for them. gives a much clearer view as to where you're going and what it's going to take to get there with a much lower investment than would otherwise be the case. So often we see customers and end users, they don't know what they don't know. They have no idea what forms personalization is, or what watch lists are, or what one-view reporting could do, or even what advanced query could do to them. And people that are making decisions often don't too. So part of your role is to educate them. Sessions like this, going to conferences, that sort of stuff. From a simplification side, you should have your processes documented. You should have a list of what enhancements you're looking for, and you should know what your mods are. If you don't, you're going to need it at some point. Probably time to do that. If you, from your last upgrade, you have your test scripts, you have your as-is processes, maybe you've got updated 2B ones, maybe you're actually using UPK. Awesome. If not, probably time to start. It's an investment this time around that will pay off next time. Look at the staffing and resourcing, and please be realistic about it. We've seen far too many projects go off the rails when the commitment is there for half time for each of 7 people across finance and distribution. But it's a number on a piece of paper as opposed to the reality when you're going through the project. So make sure it's real. Staying current. Each release that Oracle comes out with makes it easier. The simplified upgrade from a mod's perspective really up the ante. The ability to decommission mods and put it into the capabilities with the UDOs is huge as well. The other part, one thing that's often forgotten, is make sure that you've got some kind of a system diagram that talks about your touch points into and out of JD Edwards. The last thing you want to do is coming out of a CRP and then realizing, oh yeah, what about that EDI stuff that we do in the interface that we need to have running and updated for Primavera? Considerations and options for the upgrade. The most common risk factors that we've seen, first and foremost, is lack of senior management buy-in. If you don't have them agreeing and removing roadblocks and saying, thou shalt assign the staff, and okay, we do want some more servers to handle the AIS traffic that we're going to build up, it's going to be really hard to be successful. What we always preach to people on the technology side is, if you're talking to the people that are writing the checks or making the decision in technical terms, don't bother. These are business people that think in terms of revenue, share price, cost of sales, expense run rates, market share. If you're not presenting what you want to do in terms of what it means in those terms, you're going to have a hard time getting their attention. Incomplete preparation for testing, i.e. test scripts. If you got test scripts that focus on the happy and not on the sad, by that I mean happy is, oh, everything's going to be fine. If you're not trying to break the system in your testing, you're going to find out when you go live. Scope management is probably fairly obvious. Availability of business staff, we touched on before. The wrong skill set and the wrong attitude, probably equally as important. The wrong skills, we've seen people bring in somebody new because they didn't want to pull the main person away from their job, and they put them in the upgrade. Well, their knowledge of JD Edwards and business processes is probably pretty light, and they're going to get what they asked for. Same thing with attitude. If you've got naysayers or people that really don't believe in the system, are not interested and challenged by new things and how to get things better, maybe look for other choices. And poorly documented as is process, that's the starting point. You cannot get better from where you are if you don't know where you are. So, into the home stretch here, just going to touch a little bit on Team Kane ourselves, and then we'll get to the tail end and see if there's any additional questions, Doug. So,
Alrighty, yeah, we do have a couple, and we're about 5 minutes from the end, Mike, just to let you know.
Okay, thank you, timekeeper. Awesome job on that. So, on our side, how can we help? Well, one of the things we do is a pre-upgrade assessment. It's a fixed fee one, it includes expenses. The whole idea here, particularly that organizations that are not familiar with us, is we want to keep it low risk. The upgrade assessment, and we've also done these for migrations from World to EnterpriseOne, typically 1 to 2 days. We've had them where it's a bit longer. It's on site. It's not vanilla cookie cutter. It's specific to the organization. We provide the full report back a couple of weeks afterwards. Hardware, software, modules, integration, first pass project plan, investment levels, resource needs, and that's internal and external. The whole idea here is to provide a roadmap to the customer, something that they can chew on. Rarely is what's presented back the final result of what the upgrade of the migration is, but it's a great starting point for them. We also have a number of products that can lighten the load for upgrading your upgrade, like the solutions from DWS for testing and mods analysis, Purge for purging and archiving, clearing out your data, Pacman for package building, WAPman, ScanMan for AP automation, a number of other solutions as well. We also work with customers a fair bit just to explore the art of the possible with them. So sometimes it's not as full-on as a full assessment, but it could be an initial discussion and then a bit more time to do some analysis. So Team Kane in general, we've been a Quest partner forever. We're huge believers in them. We're an Oracle Gold partner. We've been around over 20 years. The heart of our business is JD Edwards. That's what we do day in and day out. We touched on Purge It via publisher packs, getting a lot of adoption here. We had a customer 2 weeks ago that contacted us and said, we got a purchase order that's pretty Mickey Mouse. We want to do a bunch of extensions to it. We don't even know where to begin. They picked up our BI Publisher Pack for purchase orders, which gave them signature capabilities, headers, footers, floating totals, logo swapping, the whole 9 yards. So they're very sophisticated forms for pretty much most outbound formats that you could get, and they're already pre-built with a lot of sophistication. Number of solutions from Forza, ScanMan, Pacman, self-service password reset. We touched on Dimension or DWS and the Swift Test product that they have. Been a partner for Spreadsheet Server. So if you are a spreadsheet-based organization for reporting, it's a great tie in there. And if you are in manufacturing or distribution and are not using RF technology, you're really missing the boat on some payback. And we work with RF Smart for their integrated solution on that side. So the whistle tour for Team Kane. So 3 minutes left, Doug. We're at the last slide. Thank you for keeping me on track. Do we have some more questions?
Very good. A few. One, is there still a Demo Junior option?
Yes, there is. I don't think it is at the 9214 level, and there's some things, as you probably know with Demo Junior, that you actually need like a full server to be able to do it. But Demo Junior is still out there, and actually, if you just Googled EnterpriseOne Demo Junior, there's lots of things out there to show you how to get it and also how to set it up. There's also, not sure if you're familiar with this, but there's what's being referred to as Demo Senior. And Demo Senior is full EnterpriseOne in the cloud. So, and that is, if I'm not mistaken, at the 9214 level. So you can go to the Oracle Cloud Marketplace and sign up for an account and have 30-day access to a full-blown installation of EnterpriseOne.
All right. And also I'll throw in there, at Team Kane, we do have a demo environment as well. So if there's something specific that you just want to be able to jump on, check out, we can absolutely work with you on that. So let us know if that's something that you would want to take advantage of. Another question.
Good point,
Doug. Got a few questions. Thanks. A few questions on cost related to the workshops. I would throw out it depends, and we can absolutely reach out to you individually to see where that might be. But Mike, I don't know if you want to give a little bit more detail on that.
No, to your point, Doug, it depends. If it's somebody that's running financials and purchase order only, and they're fairly recent, it's a bit of a different discovery session than if they're on 8.9, 8.10, 8.11, and they want to explore mobile and their manufacturing, distribution, financials, etc. So what we normally do is get some information around where you are, where you're going to, and a general sense for the scope, and we could have a pretty good idea as to what it should be like that. And we've never had anybody come back and say anything other than, wow, that's more than a fair price.
Right, absolutely. So it depends on how long we might need to be on site, how many people we need to have on site, but it's definitely not something that we're not looking at it as a revenue stream. We're just really looking to cover costs and get you in the right direction. So, and let's see, reading through, I think we have covered everything, Mike, and fancily enough, we are right at the top of the hour. So I'll say thanks to you, great job, and thank you to everybody for joining and the great questions. And of course, we'll be reaching out, but if there's something that you didn't get answered or have some additional questions, please reach out to us. Mike and I both have our contact information there on the last slide. We look forward to hopefully seeing you at InFocus or some of the other user groups that Mike and I will be attending in the coming couple of months.
Yeah, and our intention is going forward as well to have more detailed webinars on some of these. So keep your eye out through the Quest website, because most of ours are publicized through there. They're the weekly downloads and monthly information, as well as direct emails from us and letting you know about the ones that are upcoming. So, expect one on forms personalization, some more on watch lists, probably something on EnterpriseOne search combined with something else. So help extend your learning experience and help you to benefit from the wonderful ERP that you're running. So thank you, everybody.